Hello Year 11. We're going to start with a quick recap about the effects of the Great Depression 1929 to 33 on Germany. So, under the Weimar Republic, the German economy had recovered, and the years 1924 to 29 were a golden age of prosperity, and the German people ignored extreme parties like the Nazis. But in October 1929, the US economy crashed. The world entered an economic depression, and Germany was especially hit hard. And this was because, as we know, Germany had relied on Dorsplans loans, but now American money dried up. So the depression had an awful impact on Germany. Banks closed, so no one could borrow money to help them out. Factories stopped working because they relied on American loans. People lost their jobs. Unemployment was 6 million in 1932. 60% of the unemployed were under 30. People couldn't pay their mortgages, so they became homeless. Since they were getting less money from taxes, the government cut unemployment benefit. Things got even worse for farmers because people cut down on food. So crimes such as robbery and violence increased. And so for many people, this was a time in Germany of extreme poverty. So what impact did the Great Depression have on the Weimar Republic? Well, firstly, the Weimar Republic initiated unpopular policies in response to the Depression. The Weimar government tried to come up with a policy to solve the Depression, but they were frightened of causing inflation again, so they didn't want to spend too much government money. Instead, they tried to make German goods cheaper in the hope that people would buy them, thus reviving the economy. But to do this, they cut wages, cut government jobs, and reduced unemployment benefit. But sadly, this made things worse for people in the short term rather than better. Presidential rule. The government in charge when the Depression took hold in 1930 couldn't decide on how best to deal with it, so Müller, the Chancellor, resigned. Following the end of Müller's coalition, Brüning was made Chancellor. His cuts to spending were very unpopular, and he was nicknamed the Hungry Chancellor. More importantly, because Brüning did not have the support of the Reichstag, the President allowed him to use Article 48 to pass laws as he saw fit, making democracy look like a sham. And finally, all this led to the rise of political extremism. The German people just lost confidence in their leaders. When there was an election in 1930, the Nazis and the Communists made great gains. The election showed that people were choosing extremist parties that were against democracy, and voting for them just encouraged them to become even more extreme. So political violence became a regular occurrence, and so did disruption in the Reichstag, the German parliament. So we now need to summarise our understanding of this. So you need to put a heading in your books. The Great Depression had a severe impact on the political reputation of the Weimar government. And then we need to draw and complete the following diagram to show the political effects of the Great Depression on Germany. And you'll need to add at least 3 sentences underneath each heading to explain what they mean. So your diagram will have a bubble with political effects of the Great Depression written inside it, and then you'll have unpopular policies followed by your 3 summary sentences. You'll have presidential rule followed by your 3 summary sentences, and finally the rise of extremism. And again, if you look at the table on the right hand side, you can use these election results from 1930 to enhance your evidence of the rise of extremism. The arrows point to the Nazi Party's gains and the Communist Party gains. So that's today's task. Finally, we need a conclusion on just how devastating the Great Depression was for the political fortunes of the Weimar Republic and Germany. So I need you to complete these sentences with your own summary analysis. So I've done the first sentence for you. The Great Depression had a profound impact on Germany. Then you need a summary sentence that explains the economic impact, a summary sentence that explains the social impact, and then finally sentences explaining the, in summary, political impact of the Great Depression on the Weimar Republic.